Project Management, Chapter 16. In Chapter 16, we're introduced to Agile Project Management. So, Agile Project Management is almost the opposite of traditional project management. So, in traditional project management, we have very thorough upfront planning of the entire project. Where with Agile Project Management, we don't really know when the end product is going to be produced, how much that end product is going to cost, or what even the final end product could potentially be. This is a better method for technological projects. It's become very popular in IT areas where we work with technology and design, but because we might be producing the technology as we're moving along, we don't really have an idea to what that end service looks like. What Agile also focuses on is very active collaboration between the team and the customer. So this allows for where in traditional project management we have scope creep, which can derail a project. In agile project management, scope creep is actually built into the process that at any moment a customer can and should ask for more because of the nature of the design of the project. So with agile project management, we use iterations or small sections. The suggestion is that these are 1 to 4 weeks, that we have these regular check-ins of every 1 to 4 weeks of some piece of the project that is completed. Then the customer gets to review progress and reevaluate what they're looking for to make sure that the final project looks exactly like what they're wanting. In the textbook, I really like the example that they give in your textbook where they talk about building a house, where they build one room of the house at a time, and the customer can come in then and change their mind about each room as it's being built. And they can even decide, well, maybe they don't want extra rooms after all, or that it could be finished at any given time. So this would be a customer going into a house planning without knowing anything about how many rooms the house was going to have, how much the house was going to cost, or what the house would look like at the end of the project. It's a build as you go kind of thing. So the more unpredictable that a project is, and the more unknown that the technology is, the more likelihood that agile project management will actually improve your outcomes versus traditional project management techniques. Previously, before agile became popular, software development used a waterfall approach for project management. This method had a series of phases that progress would flow from one step to the other. Because software projects involve a lot of different customers and a lot of different needs, and sometimes a lot of these needs change during the project, there was a lot of issues with software project management meeting target goals and financial goals for project development. This is the traditional and agile side by side. So in traditional, we have the entire design up front, we have a fixed scope, everything's designed from the very beginning, and we implement with our work progress schedule and our plan and our resources. We avoid any changes to the project or any scope creep. And then we, at the end, evaluate how well we did at controlling all of those things as part of the project. Where in Agile, It's continuous and flexible, and we want lots of change. We embrace it. There's very high customer interaction. The customer can add things at any point during the project. And we have self-organized project teams. The best agile teams are less than 10 people total, who are cross trained and can do a wide variety of things within that project. We have examples of how this iterative product development starts. So we have iteration one, and then we'll have the customer look at it and then decide if they want to make any changes or anything new to it. And then we release iteration two, and then iteration three, until the customer is satisfied with the end product and decides that the project is complete. So as I said, there's really no absolute end date when you start a project, like it has to be completed by this date, because it's a flexible, flowing kind of project development process. It's useful, as I said, when we really don't know what those future technologies are, or when there needs to be continuous integration in an evolving product. Because we have frequent demonstrations of progress, it's very unlikely that the customer is going to be unhappy with the final project. And we have early detection of defects and problems. So the main agile principles are to, one, focus on customer value. So the customer is involved throughout the entire thing. Then that we have iterative and incremental delivery. So we have a product that the customer can look at regularly and decide what changes they want to look at. We're open to experimentation and adaptation. We're willing to take risks. We're willing to make changes. The team self-organizes. So everyone on the team could do any of the work. And when they divide it out, it's not the project manager that assigns things to different people, but the team members take on what they want to work at that time. And it's continuous improvement. So as these incremental delivery things, the rule is that we would take no more than 4 weeks between each of these incremental deliveries. And then at each we have opportunity for reflection and continuous improvement moving forward. These are some of the popular agile project management methods, as this chapter just introduces agile project management as an idea. It doesn't go deep into all of the different methods. It does talk almost exclusively about Scrum, which is the most popular agile project management method. So in Scrum methodology, we have a cross-functional team that has 4 phases: an analysis, design, build, and test. Each iteration is called a sprint, and product features and are prioritized by the perceived highest value to the customer. So it's still this flowing approach. In the Scrum development process, we have our prioritized feature log from the customer. We select which feature we're working on. That's our sprint. The sprint is anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks, and within that sprint, we have the design, build, test, and analysis. And then at the end of the sprint, we demonstrate that particular feature that has been completed during that sprint to the customer, and the customer gets to decide if they want to make changes for the next iteration. Another main function of Scrum is that the project team is required to meet every single day. So it's not a weekly check-in, it's not a monthly check-in, but they meet every single day. We have a daily Scrum meeting. So this meeting generally lasts about 15 minutes and answers 3 questions of what are we currently working on? What do we need? So what's blocking us from finishing it? And what are we looking for next? So what have we done since the last meeting? What are we working on before the next meeting? And what is getting in our way? The book calls them daily Scrum meetings. My husband's in an agile development team that uses Scrum. They call them daily stand-ups. In the textbook, it talks about how they do them beside a whiteboard and they write on a whiteboard during the meeting. My husband's group is entirely virtual, so it's via Zoom in the morning and they just go around in the meeting and each give their update. Key roles and responsibilities in the Scrum process are the product owner. This person acts on behalf of customers and end users to represent their interests. So this is the main customer contact. It can be someone from the product or the project development company or someone from the customer's company. It's just essential that it's kind of one person who takes ownership of what the features and the details and the scope and everything is. Then the development team. The development team, 5 to 9 people, cross-functional skill sets, and the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is the project manager, and they help facilitate the process, um, make sure that the team's working well together, that the organization is going well, and then working on a buffer between the team and any outside interference that could interfere with their current sprint or what they're working on. So Scrum meetings, we would have a planning meeting, the sprint planning meetings, so what we're going to do during the sprint, and then daily meetings that happen at the exact same time every day, and everyone attends, and they take about 15 minutes. Then we would have a sprint review meeting and a sprint retrospective meeting after so we finished our sprint, we released the feature, we looked at what the customer said, maybe things broke when we're talking about software and coding and development. Like I said, my husband's on a agile project management team. They do web development and they do Friday morning releases at the end of each one of their sprints. They do a Friday morning rollout, and then basically his entire day on that day is waiting for things to break and seeing what's going to be breaking and then fixing it as it breaks with the computer coding. This is an example of a partial product backlog for an agile project. So what has been completed, what has been started, what isn't started yet, the estimated hours, and the actual hours. And then this is looking at an actual sprint. So the full product information would be here, and then we have the sprint information here. So what is actually involved in that sprint, the actual hours, and the hours remaining. We also have a sprint burn down chart. So what is the sprint timeline, and are we ahead of schedule or behind schedule? So the straight line with the circles, this line here is the ideal amount of time, things that need to be done in the sprint, and then our actual remaining effort. If it's below our sprint timeline, we're ahead of schedule, and if it's above our sprint timeline, we are behind schedule. And then this is a release burn down chart after 6 sprints. So we have the days of work remaining, our original completion date, and then a revised completion date. So we see that we're actually going 2 sprints past the original completion date. This is actually not uncommon in Agile project management that you go past original planned completion dates because of the uncertainty of what the final project looks like, the invitation for scope creep from the customers, and the changes. It's they're not really trying to hit a specific date as much as they're just trying to make sure the customer is fully satisfied with the end project. Agile can be scaled to very large projects, but it requires significant management and coordination efforts. Because of the full collaboration required for Agile project management within a team, it's actually best to small teams and smaller projects than to extremely large scale projects that would require multiple teams working together. So this graph is an example of what would happen if we had multiple teams working together in an agile environment. So we would have the various different teams. Each team would have a team lead, and that team lead would meet regularly with the project management team. As you can see, in Agile project management, there are a lot more meetings, but the meetings are shorter and more detailed and more specific to what is exactly happening now, what needs to happen next. So we're not talking about big, long, all-day meetings. They're very quick meetings. There are, of course, limitations and concerns of Agile project management. So one, it obviously doesn't satisfy our need for budget, scope, and schedule control because that's not part of Agile project management. Agile project management came specifically because that there are some projects where you can't answer those questions beforehand because you're trying to develop something new. Top management doesn't really like to hear the "it depends" when they ask for budget or scope or schedule information. It requires very close collaboration within a team and that self-organization within the team where people pick what they're working on and just kind of run with it rather than a project manager specifically assigning portions of a project to various people. It obviously works best on smaller projects, so there's limitations to how well it can be scaled, and it requires very active customer involvement. Some of the customer involvement can cause frustrations because the customer might think, what did I hire you for if you need me involved or in such a high level way? So that's just a short introduction to Agile project management. It has become more and more popular. As I said, it's very, very popular in technology and computer information systems. And it's become more popular so that the Institute of Project Management has actually implemented Agile information into their certifications and stuff. So that is the end of chapter 16 and the end of the information in our textbook. And we're coming down to the end of our semester.